Hi guys, so I decided that I should do monthly wrap-up videos, and I decided this because it occurred to me that you guys don't really get to see a lot of what I read. Of course I upload reviews and hauls and things, but I don't upload reviews of every single thing that I read. I do tend to do that on my blog. More blog reviews go up than YouTube reviews, and I thought not everyone that follows my YouTube follows my blog, so you don't really get to see the whole scope of what I read. And loads of my favourite booktubers do monthly wrap-up videos. Off the top of my head, I know Book Wrap Misty does and Sue Morrow does. So I thought, yes, I should really show you guys more of what I'm reading. So excuse me if this video sort of rambles and goes on. This is my first attempt at it. So also, I won't be doing monthly TBRs because I find as soon as I try to set down in stone what I'm going to read for the month, it feels like a chore, and then I don't feel like reading that book anymore, so I then go off and read something else. So I find me personally setting TBRs is kind of pointless. Okay, so on to the actual wrap-up video. Just going to give you some overall thoughts on the books that I read this month, well, the month of August. I read 8 books in total during August, which wasn't bad, but I think I could have read more. But in August it was A-level results, and I didn't read for 2 whole days because on results day I went with my friends to get my results, and then afterwards when we found out what we got, we went off and celebrated like you do with book shopping. And I was out like most of the day, and then when I got home, my best friend came round and we celebrated as well. So I didn't read for the whole of that day, and then the next day all of us went out on a little day out, so I didn't read that day either. So I could have read a whole other book, maybe more, but I didn't get to it. Okay, so the first book that I read in August was The Land of Stories by Chris Colfer. This is his first novel, and I have to say I really enjoyed it. I don't normally read middle grade, but this completely converted me. I devoured it, I couldn't put it down. Really, really loved it. So I ended up giving it 5 out of 5 stars. I am going to upload a full YouTube review of this, so you will see my thoughts in detail on it. But if you can't wait for that, I'm sure you can. But I have already uploaded a blog review of this, so I'll leave that below. But I loved it. I definitely think you should check it out. 5 out of 5. The next book that I read during August was on my Kindle, and it's Unlovable by Gammon. I had wanted to read this book for ages. I stumbled across it on Goodreads last year. The cover is gorgeous, and at the time I didn't have a Kindle, so I was looking for a physical copy of the book and I couldn't find one in the UK. I still want a physical copy because it is so beautiful, but in the end I bought a Kindle copy. It's really cheap on Kindle. It's like £2.50. It was an amazing bargain. I absolutely loved this book. It's kind of it's a little bit dark and a little bit gritty, and it's about Seth. He's an undercover like cop, and he is part of a drugs unit, and he still looks kind of young, so he basically infiltrates a high school, and it's his job to find out who's supplying drugs to these teenagers. So he's basically trying to make friends with all these kids so he can find out where their drugs are coming from. And he's told to look into Maggie Brown, and she is like the poster child for a drug addict. She's sort of thin, withdrawn. She basically just looks like an addict, and the problem is he falls in love with her, but he also finds out that she's not into drugs, and it's kind of thrilling, it's dangerous, it's romantic as well. I couldn't put this book down. I read it in about 24 hours. When I wasn't reading it, I wanted to be reading it. It just completely captivated me. I will definitely be rereading this book. Loved it. It's definitely 5 out of 5 stars for this book. I definitely recommend checking it out. Can't recommend it enough, especially because it's so reasonable on Kindle. So yeah, 5 out of 5 for that. Loved it. I have done a blog review of that, so I'll leave that below. But also I am going to be doing a giveaway for this book, courtesy of Gammon. She has said that if I host a giveaway on my blog, she will give someone an e-copy of this book. So if you don't want to buy it for your Kindle, you can head over to my giveaway I will be giving free entries for it. You don't have to be a blog follower to enter, so I'll leave the link to the giveaway below. Definitely go check it out. So yeah, it will just be a simple rafflecopter, a free entry, and then if you are a YouTube subscriber, you'll get an extra few points or entries, or blog followers, Goodreads followers, all those kinds of things. There will be extra entries if you want to, but you don't have to. So make sure you go enter that giveaway because it's an awesome book and I can't recommend it enough. The next book that I read in August was Between the Lines by Jodie Picoult and Samantha Van Leer, and this book is gorgeous. The cover is beautiful. The book itself is a purple hardcover, and that's nice because it's relevant, because the book that the main character Delilah is obsessed with is described exactly how they've packaged the book, so it's nice in that way. Cover is really nice, but the inside of this book is great too. The different coloured inks and pictures. I would like pick a page without a picture on, wouldn't I? So basically the fairy tale book is written in black ink. Delilah, the girl's point of view, is written in green ink, and Oliver, the fairy tale prince, is written in purple ink, full of beautiful illustrations, and it's a great premise. It kind of reminds me of Toy Story's premise, you know, when kids can't see the toys, they come alive. Well, it's the same principle, that basically when you're not reading a book, the characters in that have their own lives. They're not set by the rules of the book. It's kind of like they're actors in a play. So I liked that whole idea. The writing was really fast paced. It was great, but I felt that the end was sort of rushed. Basically, you read almost 400 pages waiting for this thing to happen. Prince Oliver basically communicates with Delilah, and he wants to be free of the book to be with Delilah. So basically, you're waiting the whole book for them to be together, and then at the end, you don't know really how we came up. Well, you do know how, but you don't know what it was like for him. There's not much of a union. It's just sort of ended, and I felt that was kind of disappointing because the rest of the book was brilliant. It was funny. There's quite a few Twilight jokes in it. It's really relatable for book lovers, obviously, because Delilah is a bit of a loner. Not that all book lovers are loners, let's get that out there, but she's isolated. She prefers to read. She's obsessed with one book, reads it over and over, and I'm sure we've all felt like that at some point. So everything was great until the end, so I gave it 4 out of 5. It was still a great read, and I definitely recommend picking up for fans of fairy tales, because it combines the two, like, of a contemporary and a fairy tale really, really well. It's really sweet. I do recommend it. The next book that I read in August was My Life Next Door by Huntley Fitzpatrick, a YA contemporary. I did enjoy this. It was really fast paced. I read it in about 2 days. And basically it's about Sam falling in love with the boy next door called Jace, and he comes from sort of a different world from her. Her mum's sort of a clean freak, Republican. She doesn't like that next door are big and boisterous, and she's basically not supposed to hang around with them, but she does, and she sort of envies their life. She would prefer to be in their family, and then obviously she falls in love with Jace, and then a big bombshell happens and it threatens their relationship. It was good, but I did have a few issues with it. Sam, I felt, was too weak. She didn't put her point across at all. And then when she tried and no one listened to her, she just sort of went, okay. She just let people walk all over her. She was spineless. And that really bugged me. I saw no real growth in her character, and she's defending her relationship with Jace and Jace's family to her mother, and even at the end she justifies them to her like she has to. I just found it kind of insulting and hurtful to Jace's family, and so does he. I also felt that she has an argument with her best friend, Nan, I think is what her name was, and it's never sort of resolved. Like, I didn't like Nan, but that's never resolved. It just sort of hangs there. Overall, it was good. I felt like it wasn't the best contemporary I've read, especially after recently reading Pushing the Limits by Katie McGarry and then Unlovable by Sherry Gammon, which have become two of my favourite contemporaries and favourite books ever, to go to this, it just didn't meet that benchmark, unfortunately, so I gave it 4 out of 5. And then I also read a whole trilogy in August. I read the Yelena Zoltana novels by Maria V. Snyder, Poison Study, Magic Study, and Fire Study. I had these for my birthday from my best friend. She bought me the whole trilogy, and I've been saving them, but I couldn't resist anymore. So I picked up Poison Study. The whole premise of this is brilliant. I loved it. Yelena's basically rotting in dungeons until she's given the choice to either have a quick execution or become the commander's food taster, so she could potentially die a slow and painful poisonous death. So she chooses to become the food taster, and she has to learn about all these poisons. There's danger, action. It's very thrilling. The pacing of this was amazing. I couldn't put it down. As soon as I read page 1, I was hooked. I wanted to know more about this fantasy world. It was absolutely amazing, and as soon as I finished it, I had to pick up Magic Study. So obviously Poison Study got 5 out of 5 stars. Definitely recommend checking this out. Even if you're not normally a fantasy reader, I'd say give this one a try. There are some sort of disturbing aspects to it, sort of sexual abuse, and it is quite dark and violent, so if you don't like those things, I wouldn't suggest picking up. It's not too graphic, but they are mentioned. Magic Study picked off exactly where Poison Study left off. It flowed really well. It didn't feel like I was picking up a book 2. It just flowed amazingly well. I liked that in book 1 we have Yelena learning poisons, and then she's growing as a character. She's now learning her magic potential. Again, this got 5 out of 5. I did have a few issues with that. There is a love interest developing in book 1, but I felt that it wasn't in there enough. Like, she sort of develops a love interest with the guy that supposedly poisons her on a daily basis, and I just didn't see enough of their interaction to see how you could fall for a guy that's chaining you to this castle and poisoning you and endangering your life. We didn't see enough of him to really justify their relationship, and I felt that we saw even less of him in here. So it didn't feel like I knew him enough to really say, yeah, that's a great relationship. Then I read Fire Study. Now, this one didn't flow from book 2 very well. It took me about 250 pages for it to pick up its pace again. It was really slow, and it didn't have the flair of the first 2 books. But then past the 250-300 mark, it started to pick up again, and it was really good, but it just didn't meet my standards from the first 2 books. I just thought this was dragged out, and it just didn't pace itself very well, and it felt repetitive, and I found myself having to reread bits to understand what the hell was going on. So this one only got 4.5 out of 5 because it was still awesome, but Yelena bugged me in this one. She just didn't listen. She just ran headlong into situations that nearly got everyone killed, and she didn't seem to care at all, so that was kind of annoying. And the last book that I read in August was Vampire State of Mind by Jane Lovering. This was my most disappointing book of the month. Its premise is very much like an adult romance version of Paranormalcy by Kirsten White. Otherworlders are known about, and our protagonist in this is Jessica, and she's a council tracker. She basically keeps an eye on all these otherworlders, vampires, zombies, ghouls, werewolves, etc., etc. It's her job to keep an eye on them, and then it kind of goes crazy. All these other worlds show up for this run, which is a competition between them, and she gets pulled into it, and then someone wants to kill her, etc., etc. And the premise was really good, but then I found Jessica kind of annoyed me. The one thing I did like was her working relationship with her colleague Liam. Their witty banter was really good, but then I found sometimes it went too far, and it tried too hard to be funny, and it really wasn't. It just sort of fell flat. And this is supposed to be a romance, but I found that really fell flat. Jessica's been in love with a vampire called Syl for 4 years. First of all, I hate his name, Syl. I just kept thinking of windowsill. I was like, I can't take your name seriously. And basically, she won't let anything happen between them because she thinks vampires are emotionless and they don't have any commitment, so there's no point. And basically, why I didn't like this is, while she's got feelings for him, he has got feelings for her, but throughout the whole book he basically goes off and has sex with anything that moves. Now, that's not my kind of premise for a romance book. It just, I know he's got a parasite demon living inside of him that he has to fill and feed with human hormones, so thrills and spills, and he has to give them blood and all this lot. But I just like, that's just not romantic in my opinion. Just no. So I resented and disliked him from the start. There wasn't really much of Jessica to recommend her. I didn't like her, so the whole thing just kind of fell flat. I didn't like it, so I gave it 2 out of 5. But I think that's being overly generous. But bearing in mind, I'm being overly critical on this book because it was something that I really didn't. It's kind of a pet peeve. I didn't like what it had in it, but I know that the premise of it and the writing and all that will appeal to some people. So if you like light, fluffy romances that are very nice, whatever, maybe give it a go. I personally can't recommend it because I really didn't like it. Okay, so that's everything that I read in August. I'm gonna try and keep up with these monthly wrap-up things. Be sure to enter my giveaway, and thanks so much for watching this. And if you think this was an okay idea to show you guys more of what I'm reading, please let me know in the comments below, and I will definitely keep up with it. And happy reading!